having her come and speak to us. Our first speaker today is Olivia Roberts. She's just completed her first year as a graduate student at George Washington University. If you've read her bio in the Luncheon program, you will see that this young lady is already on her way to making us very proud of her being selected as a Wolcott Fellow. Please welcome Ms. Olivia Roberts.
Good afternoon. Thank you for that introduction. To this distinguished body, thank you for choosing me to share in this special occasion. As a Wolcott Fellow, it is an honor to come before you today and express my sincere gratitude to the Wolcott Foundation and how its contributions are providing me with once-in-a-lifetime experiences to gain a greater insight, knowledge, and purpose in the public service area, through my academics and through service to the community. In my time of personal research, I found the origin of High 12 International to be very interesting. Your commitment to the community and helping young people in their quality of life pursuits are very noble. Since childhood, I've always been involved in public service somehow. And even though I would beg my parents to allow me to donate my weekly allowance to become a child sponsor in a third world country, they wouldn't allow me when I was younger. However, when I became a teenager and I understood more about it, they did allow me to use my allowance to become a sponsor. And little did I know then that the actions of my heart were stirring me in the direction of a professional public servant. First, when I began my journey at George Washington University in 2018, I anticipated the experience with positive energy, a new city and a new adventure. Just to mention, I survived my first winter, real winter, in DC, which is an extraordinary milestone for me. And believe me, coming from Mississippi where it's nice, warm, and humid, the weather in DC was torturous for me, and enough for me to want to pack my bags to go back to where I was familiar with the weather. But I held tight to the principles my parents and family taught me through example. The importance of discipline, courage, accountability, and charity. After having done my research, I learned that the Trachtenberg School of Public Policy and Public Administration believes that a good graduate program should provide more than classroom instruction. And I agree. Learning how to apply the knowledge I gain in graduate school facilitates my job tasks and daily work as I work as a press assistant for the U.S. House of Representatives Committee on Energy and Commerce. Each day, I have the privilege to help amplify the committee's political agenda strategically across various digital platforms. And the courses that I've taken thus far, such as research methods and economics, have given me a deeper understanding as to why policies are crafted the way they are. And this, in return, allows me to be able to break down the legislation so I can effectively communicate it to the general public so they understand what Congress is working on behalf and doing on behalf of the American people. I've successfully completed year one at the Trachtenberg School, and I can truly see how it has given me the tools that I need to advance my career. My experience over the past year as a graduate student at Trachtenberg has been challenging, eye-opening, engaging, character-building, fruitful, and inspiring. I deem it fair to say that fellow Wolcott Fellows and I were not chosen by mistake because we would not be here with you today. We were pursued with a purpose, and we thank you. Although our life's directions may go in different directions, whether it be in private, public, or the nonprofit sector, we will each embark upon a career with a strong foundation, remembering to always demonstrate the commitment to ideas of high ethical and moral standards which you stand on. Because of the Wolcott Fellowship Award, I have been afforded the time outside of class to volunteer with organizations and agencies that work tirelessly to bring about positive change in the lives of at-risk teenagers. The Wolcott Foundation Tuition Assistance has been a generous gift to help me relieve some of the financial burden of paying for graduate school. With tuition on the rise, as we were just talking a second ago about, I'm wondrously blessed to have received such a selected honor. I take pride in knowing that the Wolcott Foundation holds me in high expectations to live out the standards that was merited in a Wolcott Fellow. As I shared early on, volunteering is one of my greatest passions, and it provides me with the opportunity to put my classroom education into practical application. Considering the condition of our society, young people need the application of sound, practical education and training, especially those who are victims of circumstances they did not create. Their circumstances came before them. As a change agent in the making, I must have the humble understanding that I am being equipped with the skills to work with government agencies to make a better world for communities who need a voice. Through my education at George Washington, I am gaining knowledge to create defining moments and embracing noble opportunities to impact others through my advocacy. As a 4-H alumni, I am very acquainted with the impact of volunteerism. While I was a 4-H member, I contributed over 3,000 hours of community service through civic organizations, through international human projects and reliefs, and through the pageant avenue associated with the Miss America Corporation. For example, I've been involved with the Children's Miracle Network Hospital for several years, which helps raise funds to treat and cure childhood illnesses and diseases. In addition, I previously adopted Hope Phones as a community service project where I collected and shipped over 200 used cell phones to be recycled into emergency medical alert systems to reach poor, sick women and children who normally have to walk over 100 miles just to visit a doctor in the Democratic Republic of Congo. I traveled as far as Paris, France to collect phone pledges and motivated the community in getting involved in global issues. The personal and educational side of me believes that workable global partnerships can urge public policy to help bring about change in dire situations. Also, for several years, I served in the appointment of head consultant with Mississippi Governor Phil Bryant's health initiative, Healthy Teens for a Better Mississippi. In 2012, Mississippi had the third highest teen pregnancy rate in the United States, and knowing this urgency needed attention, Governor Bryant issued a directive to the Mississippi Department of Health and Human Services and the Mississippi Department of Health to develop a plan for preventing and reducing the teenage pregnancy rate in our state. To gain a global understanding of this epidemic, I traveled to Nicaragua, which has the highest teen pregnancy rate in Central America. And there, I had the opportunity to mentor teen girls and help them embrace their uniqueness and to see the strength and purpose in their lives. Of importance, my service to Governor Bryant's directive also included participating in the plan to set forth an action plan by using Senate Bill 2563, which required community colleges and higher institutions of learning to address unplanned pregnancies across the state. While at my undergraduate alma mater, Mississippi State University, I volunteered as a health education wellness service volunteer with the Student Health Center to promote healthy decision-making, building coalitions in-state, nationally, and internationally, conducting media outreach, and supporting pertinent legislation. On the graduate level, my political activities began after being selected as a Congressional Black Caucus Foundation intern, where I had the honor of interning in the House Democratic Policy and Communication Committee office under then Leader Pelosi. During this experience, interns learned to lean on each other in making our efforts count toward a greater good. From every personal development session throughout the tenure of this internship, I was made more aware of the impact that we can make. We, the interns, left a lasting imprint on each other, and we continue to be reminded of the pledge that we would make a mark on our community, our state, and better yet, our world. With regards to my present activities, I serve as the scholarship chair for the Mississippi State University Alumni Association DC chapter. And on a more involved one-on-one basis, I mentor 11th grade girls at Thurgood Marshall Academy, which is located in one of the most historic districts in DC. There, I am a native, or I'm active, not a native, I am now a native DCer, but I am active in their academy's mission, and it states, to prepare students to succeed in college and to actively engage in our democratic society. In conjunction, I also serve as a volunteer for the organization Young Ladies of Tomorrow, which serves as an alternative to the juvenile justice system for adolescent females through a holistic approach to empower young ladies to transition into womanhood. Each day I spend in this challenging population, I strive to model former President Ronald Reagan's way, in which he believed, live simply, love generously, care deeply, speak kindly, and leave the rest to God. On a more personal note, working with Young Ladies of Tomorrow is serving a special purpose in my platform in the upcoming pageant, Miss District of Columbia, under the Miss America organization, which is next Sunday. I am adamant about my engagement with the Miss America organization because it encourages young women to become involved in their community and to speak out on issues that are concerning to them, their community, and the nation. For my platform, I created Dreamkeeper, the Girl with a Plan, which focuses on impacting at-risk juvenile females to keep their dreams alive through practical one-on-one mentoring, life and career coaching, and motivational speaking. Helping get at-risk girls, for example, teenage mothers, on the right track can ensure a better future for our economy and promote healthier teens and stronger families. Former First Lady Michelle Obama eloquently stated, "Every girl, no matter where she lives, deserves the opportunity to develop the promise inside of her." With that said, I intend to change the world with my energy by being a change agent, promoting issues that can impede a person's dream and helping them overcome those issues. For all persons to dare to care, we are promoting the heart of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s legacy and knowing that our lives begin to end the day we become silent about things that matter. Moving along with my plans for public service after graduating from George Washington University, I vision becoming a spokesperson for a major nonprofit traveling to bring a greater awareness to its cause. In addition, I plan to utilize the resources and tools that I have gained during my tenure at George Washington to continue growing my personal company, Roberts Consulting Company, with hopes of using my knowledge and experiences to provide career counseling and professional development in the community. In deciding my career path, I must share that serving is in my DNA. I was born into a family of humanitarians. I have an aunt who is 91 with the spirit of a young millennial. She had a way of causing one to fall in love with their community and work to make it better. She referred to her action as quality of life. I hope to make an impact as an effectual leader, using my influence to propel legislations and shape policies that revolutionize circumstances that seem unbearable for those who have lost their voice to advocate for a better quality of life. I will support my belief that it is inhumane for people to live in a way that deny them of opportunities to become productive citizens. As a leader in training, I am constantly reminded of former President Barack Obama's statement, "Change will not come if we wait for some other person or some other time. We are the ones we've been waiting for. We are the change that we seek." I desire to be a part of the movement in the government that works for the American people. As I leave the podium, I would like to share with you some of the best advice that I received from a close relative named Dr. David Beckley, the president of Rusk College in Holly Springs, Mississippi. He said, "Olivia, don't let anyone tell you what you can or cannot do, but let it be your choice, because only you will have to live with that decision." So, in confirmation, I did serve as spokesperson with the Mississippi's Office of the Governor to help tackle the epidemic of teen pregnancy. I did become the first African American to join the Delta Omega chapter of Kappa Delta sorority. I did intern on Capitol Hill for U.S. Representative Trent Kelly and Leader Nancy Pelosi. I did intern for the Congressional Black Caucus Foundation during graduate school, and now I am a Wolcott Fellow studying public administration at the historic George Washington University. All because I did not allow anyone to tell me what I could not do. Lastly, In the book I published titled Leaping into Your Destiny for Rising Seventh Graders, I ended it with a quote by William Jennings Bryan, and it's the same quote that I feel is so fitting to leave with you today, which states, "Destiny is not a matter of chance, it is a matter of choice. It is not a thing to be waited for, it is a thing to be achieved. I know where I belong, in public service, that can improve the condition of humanity, tangible and intangible. Thank you."
In a moment, for every dollar that you put in that little red schoolhouse, that these are the type of young people that come to the Wolcott Foundation and that we are helping to fulfill their dreams. This is exciting, wonderful. Olivia, thank you so very much for those inspiring words. My goodness. I don't know if we could all together accomplish what she's accomplished already. Woo!
She lost me at the book.
This is why we feel it's so important to have Olivia and David here, so you see what it is that you are doing through the Wolcott Foundation to help this country. With young people like these, we're okay. We're okay. Our second speaker today is a young man who is very persistent in pursuing his goals in life. As mentioned in his program bio, David has a very challenging responsibility and one that makes us all proud that he is a senior Wolcott Fellow. Please welcome Mr. David Oken.
Thank you. I really feel like we should have saved the best for last. In all seriousness, I sometimes wonder how I received this fellowship when I hear about the accomplishments and the activities and the passions of those who have come after me. So thank you, Olivia, for those remarks. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for inviting me to join you today to give some brief remarks at the annual Wolcott Foundation Luncheon during the High 12 International Convention. I'm grateful for the invitation to join you all, extended by brothers Michael Clark, Ursel Eschbach, Bob Morton, Randy Spalding, Stanley Gardner, and Roger Hopkins. I'd also like to thank Joe and Jonathan from High 12 International. I've had the pleasure to see and meet and interact with many of these gentlemen and their even better wives annually at the Fellows Reception in Washington, D.C. I once again am humbled after hearing our friend and fellow collaborator Olivia Roberts speak about her work. This, I believe, truly showcases the breadth of what public service is and can be today. This afternoon, I want to speak with you all about two themes: responsibility and persistence. As Brother Michael said in introducing me, I am a senior fellow of the Wolcott Foundation. Now, I am turning 30 later this year, so it's about time I've gotten some respect. But to me, being a senior or an alumni fellow of the Wolcott Foundation carries a tremendous responsibility. It is a responsibility to give back to the George Washington University, to its faculty, staff, and students. It is a responsibility to attend to the current crop of graduate students selected as Wolcott Fellows. And it is a responsibility to continue to model, to the best of my ability, those traits of public, government, and international service which somehow convinced the selection committee to choose me back in 2015. And it is also a responsibility to do my part to ensure generations of young scholars who come after me have the opportunity to demonstrate their own commitments to these ideals. That is part of why I'm here today. But first, I'd like to share a little of what brought me to this point, the experiences that influenced my path. Prior to undertaking graduate coursework, I taught third grade reading, writing, math, and social studies, and science in both English and in Spanish at a public elementary school in Texas. In my work as a bilingual educator and Teach for America Corps member, I valued developing my students' identities as Spanish and English speakers growing up in a bicultural community. And I found this work particularly meaningful because of my experiences with the deaf community. You see, my mother is deaf. Before I became aware of the news we all hear about immigration and border control and assimilation struggles and more, my mom was my first example of someone bicultural and bilingual. She grew up in the hearing community and in the deaf community. She spoke English and American Sign Language. She challenged assumptions that I failed to recognize until later in life. And my mother was the first person to whom I expressed any interest in acquiring a foreign language. And while I found my passion through speaking Spanish, which is no longer foreign to me, we share, my mother and I, a fundamental understanding of humanity, forged by the experiences of marginalization that I witnessed and heard. So you know that I was a bilingual teacher. I was committed to public service through Teach for America, which is an AmeriCorps program. I was aware of many of these statistical challenges facing disadvantaged urban youth, whether they were deaf or indigent or immigrant. My exposure and my experiences teaching in one such community invigorated me to commit to meaningful graduate study, where at George Washington University, I researched regional security and economic issues across Latin America. So that brings me to the second theme, persistence. What some of you may not know is that I was turned down for a Wolcott Foundation Fellowship when I first applied. Faced with a staggering amount of forthcoming graduate tuition, undergraduate loans, and suddenly no income after resigning from teaching and moving across the country, I nevertheless leaned into my circumstances and into my partner. I spent my first year as a George Washington University graduate student, where I was pursuing the Master of Arts degree in Latin American and Hemispheric Studies, learning as much as I could from my classes and gaining as much experience as I could from a myriad of professional, albeit unpaid, internships, such as Washington. So while I was turned down for some of these opportunities, I did manage to work for a non-governmental organization promoting democracy and freedom of the press. I then transitioned to working for the Organization of American States on drug control policy, which I think is a topic that has captured our current national attention due to the opioid crisis. And finally, I ended up at the State Department. And during this time of learning and transition as a graduate student, I decided to give that Wolcott thing one more go. And I'm so glad I did.
So are we.
My persistence meant that upon selection as a 2015-2016 Wolcott Fellow, I traded insecurity and a second year's tuition burden for another mantle of responsibility. For as you all know, the Wolcott Foundation calls upon its fellows to dedicate their formative professional years to the art of public service. I thus pursued a career appointment to the civil service of the United States government. Since graduating in 2016, I have served our nation in the United States Department of State. I work in the Office of Children's Issues, where I assist families whose children have been abducted internationally, oftentimes by another family member. The National Center for Missing and Exploited Children released a statistic recently that said out of the approximate 25,000 reported abductions in last calendar year, only 1% of those were by a stranger. The vast majority of child abductions take place by someone the child knows, oftentimes a family member. So as you can imagine, these are extremely difficult situations. As my colleagues and I hear from people who are unfortunately at their lowest points. Their relationships have deteriorated, their children are missing, and mothers and fathers have lost contact with the one thing they hold most dear. My portfolio includes countries in South America, including Brazil, Argentina, and Colombia. And in addition to working individual cases, I advance U.S. government policy and I work with foreign governments, with law enforcement, and with members of Congress to seek meaningful change and progress on this issue. Just yesterday, I met with staffers from over 25 congressional districts, both senators from the state of Illinois, so that our members of Congress and their offices are better prepared to respond when their constituents contact them. I put my degrees and my previous experience to use every day by using Spanish and Portuguese to communicate with our parents, with our stakeholders, with our partners. I apply my knowledge of Latin America gained through my degree at the George Washington University to my diplomatic engagement. And also by remembering that any one of the children affected by an international abduction could have been one of my students from when I was a teacher. And also by remembering that the Wolcott Foundation enabled me to pursue these interests and these opportunities to serve you as you all have served me. It is my sincere hope that future George Washington University graduate students may encounter your generosity and may use the Wolcott Foundation Fellowship as a much-needed springboard to launch them into continued public service. Our country desperately needs it. It is my privilege and honor to be here today to thank all of you in person for giving me that leg up as I continue my career. Thank you.
Stay right here a minute. Stay right here a minute. Olivia? Wow. Talk about a double header. I'm sorry, Joe? Yes. Well, on behalf of you, of the Wolcott Foundation and all High 12, we want to thank the two of you for sharing your story. I saw a few more people besides me doing this a couple of times. But a certificate of appreciation, may it be known that Olivia Roberts and David Oken is awarded